Thanks for coming today. I'm going to talk about creating a high-performance Alfresco development team. The reason why I want to talk about this, we go to a lot of customers, a lot of clients, and they want to build their own Alfresco development team. They don't really know what to do. So this is like a step-by-step guide on how to create your own Alfresco development team. We start out by talking about the kind of people we want to have, who we're going to have, how are we going to tool them, what kind of best practices that they're going to be able to use so they can stay consistent and you can have a reliable, productive team. For the people that we want A players, obviously. We want people who not just know the technology, but they're constant learners. They're good team players. They communicate well. All those base things that you really can't take for granted, even though it's a technical person. You want them to code in the interview. They have to code. You want to see what their code is like. That's very, very important. You also want to be kind of tough in the interview. It's a lot easier to be tough in an interview than it is to fire somebody later because you weren't tough in an interview. So you want to do that. From a technical standpoint, they have to be strong with Java, but you really want somebody who does more than Java, what they call a polyglot programmer. Java's great, that's good, but you want them to also know something like Ruby or C# or Perl or etc., just to show that they're a bit more well-rounded. You also want to make sure you establish very consistent development practices. You need some kind of code of conduct. You need people to be able to have a playbook to go off of that is consistent. So if you don't have this, the link at the end will point you to a place where you can get one to start with. And at least it's a good place to start. But you absolutely need that. Once you start in Alfresco development, you want people to learn on their own as much as they can to show initiative. Doing some of the tutorials, like on the Jeff Potts website, ECM Architect, that's a great place to start because it covers a whole gamut of things. There's Alfresco 101 YouTube. You also want to make sure that the people doing it have a great laptop. And it's not just to make them happy, it's to make them efficient. Because if you've got a good computer, lots of RAM, then they can do good work quicker. And you want to have the good tools. You can have open source tools, it's great, but IntelliJ is a really nice tool too. For infrastructure, you want to have the ability to grow your servers, your development servers on demand. Whether that's in-house, we have over 200 VMs in ours, but you could also expand out to Azure or Amazon or etc. Have that flexibility to grow your development environment. Every dev team needs source control. You need some kind of build server. You need to be able to continuously build and integrate and run your tests. You need to have something like a Maven repository to handle your dependencies a lot easier so you don't have to worry about it. It helps you go from project to project and unload developers easier. You need some kind of analysis. If you want to have a high-performing team, they need to be accountable. You need to be able to show that they're doing the right job. So you need to see the code, make sure there's no violations, have high test coverage. You also need to be able to go from project to project easier. So when we look at what you do in Alfresco development, start with the Maven SDK. That's a very easy way to get a project set up and running. Once you've got that, you look at everything else about the module that you want to create. In Alfresco, you do modules, and then you push those modules out. Those modules should have everything you need to deploy. You shouldn't have to go to environment to environment and create all these things manually. You should be able to do that as part of the module. You should be able to bootstrap all of that data so you don't have to worry about it. Every project I've ever done has at least these items in it. I mean, you have to do some kind of customizations for the metadata screens to show metadata. You want to have some logo. You want to integrate with a user directory like LDAP or AD. So everybody has to know how to do those things. Everybody also should know how to code these kinds of things, how to code custom actions, how to code custom web scripts. If you want to do a custom service layer underneath those things, every developer you have should know those things, and there's great tutorials out there. Start with Jeff Potts stuff. It's an easy place. We come to workflow, very similar to other share customizations. I know it's an evolving world if you've seen the activity stuff this morning, but there's going to be share screens, there's going to be model. One thing's a bit controversial for task listeners. We always recommend to do Java unless it's something simple. I know you can do JavaScript, and that's fine, but with Java you get the extra code analysis benefits and the extra code coverage benefits and the reusability benefits. I find that that's a bit better than just using the JavaScript. Unit testing everything, including your workflows. If you don't have 80% coverage, I really think you need to get there. I think anything less than 80%, and you can probably do better. You can actually do much better than 80% too, but you need that kind of accountability. As the accountability goes, you should also have estimates on everything you're doing. Even if you start out not really knowing how to do it, create the estimates, then you have some kind of way to track that in the future. Everything about being a high-performing team is about being accountable as well. So we have to make sure that we're accountable to everybody. If If you do all of these things, then you've got the good structure and framework for having a professional development team that follows best practices. Everybody's on the same place. They're playing by the same playbook. They know what they're doing. Everybody can go from each other's code and not have to think, wow, this looks different. This is pretty much the same. In the end, everybody's accountable. Everybody knows that their code is clear, it's clean, it's been tested. Somebody else can pick it up, and they can feel good that they've delivered a quality product. And I think that's pretty much it. So, thanks.